It is time to see a bunch of those high school friends that went off to college to out-of-state places, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Southeast, making their way back to Fort Collins, home base, to raise a family. Now, you can say what you want about Fort Collins. Maybe it's a small metro, maybe not the greatest place to be a single, maybe it's a college town, but the one thing you can absolutely say, it is a great place to raise a family. In fact, in 2018, Livability ranked Fort Collins as the 4th best place to raise a family in the United States. Now, that's just one of many things that the Fort Collins area ranks for highly as far as best places to live. So, and that's not to beat a dead horse, but today's video, we are going to talk about those aspects that really brought Fort Collins to that 4th place ranking in 2018 and speak on each one of them. So stick around, watch the video, see why it is that Fort Collins is such a great place to raise a family. What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Soukup here in Fort Collins, Colorado with Soukup Real Estate. And if you're new to the channel, we talk to you about everything there is to know about Fort Collins: eating, sleeping, playing, working, raising a family. So if that vibes with you, consider subscribing. And if at the end of the video you've enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, comment, engage, maybe even share it with your friends. And as much as I like making these real estate videos, we like more working with buyers, sellers, and investors for all the real estate needs for everything here in Northern Colorado. In fact, we're working with people from South Dakota, Chicago, Florida, Arizona, Washington, California. Everywhere across the United States, people are moving here and we're helping them find their new home and really be able to come at it from a place of value. So definitely feel free to reach out, call, text, email, whatever it is. I've got your back when it comes to living here in Northern Colorado. Without any further delay, let's jump into why Fort Collins is such a great place to raise a family. Enjoy. So we were ranked on some specific criteria, and some of them were kind of unique, but ultimately they tried to score areas based on the following, which were potential playmates under the age of 6, quality of public schools, health of children, affordability of housing and transportation, cost of childcare, number of daycare options, libraries, and parks. So we're gonna go through each one and talk to you about why, from my perspective, Fort Collins may have ranked well or not so well in specific areas, starting with potential playmates under the age of 6. So Fort Collins' median age is just above 29 years old. And that is just the exact age that I had my first kid. So that being said, we have a strong population centered around people having kids. So if the majority of our population is at that age of 29 years old, and don't blame us, us millennials, getting a little bit later start in life as far as having kids comparatively to generations past, but hopefully we're establishing a good, strong, possibly strong financial base for us to have kids. So Fort Collins, with a median age of about 29 years old, having kiddos at that time, and then really keeping them here throughout, really throughout their high school years. So there's going to be a strong population of kiddos underneath the age of 6, which is really fun to see. When we go to parks or the daycare, there is definitely a lot of times where my little girl, my little boy have plenty of kids to play with, and generally speaking, all pretty nice and have a great time. So the median age of 29 years old is going to really direct how many kids are going to be, or how many kiddos are going to be under the age of 6. So it's a unique age that dictates best places to raise a family, but you ultimately want your kids to have friends and have good times and be able to go out and play sports and do daycare and all that kind of stuff with kids of the same age. So Fort Collins having a median age of 29 probably is a big driver of why we have so many kids underneath the age of 6, and that probably was why we scored relatively well. The next topic is quality of public schools. Now, working with people coming in from across the country, whether that be Texas, the Northeast, Boston, the Northwest, or California, schools is definitely a big driver to a lot of families' decisions. And being from Fort Collins and having been raised in Poudre School District, went to public school at Cruz Elementary, middle school, Bolts, and junior high at that time, Bolts, and high school at Fort Collins High School, and then graduated from CSU. I never necessarily understood how good Poudre School Districts was, and understood also why, maybe people in big metros send their kids to private schools, whether it's safety, quality of education, whatever it might be, the financial, abilities of the school, whatever it might be. For when they come to Fort Collins, they are very specific that they want to be in the Poudre School District. Now, that's not to say that Thompson Valley is not a good school district, neither saying is Weld R4 poor school district. In fact, I actually think they're both really good, but Poudre School District in general scores very well, and it is a strong desire of families to stay within the border of Poudre School District. So specifically on the south side of town, staying north of Trilby Road. So keep that in mind if you're moving to Fort Collins. But to raise a family in a great public school system, I'm not too bad, I don't think, but who knows? And but overall, I think the teachers, I've got a lot of teacher friends in the school district, and I think they're all very well intentioned, wanting to do good things here in town and have a strong community affiliation. So quality of public schools, definitely a strong suit of Fort Collins when you are considering raising a family. The next one is measure of children's health. Now, I have no idea. I didn't necessarily dig into the health-related facts about children in Fort Collins, but I can tell you from my perspective, having going to parks and daycares and seeing other very outdoorsy parents and families getting their kids involved at the park, in daycares, within sports, and very active lifestyles with parents on their bikes, riding along bike trails, really teaching their kids from a young age to be active. Now, don't get me wrong, we have probably a decent sized population that's kind of sedentary, that prefer to stay in, play video games, and there's still a lot of kids that want to play on their tablet and play games, but we are also a community that thrives being outdoor. This is an outdoor lifestyle community, so it doesn't surprise me that kiddos in general are pretty healthy. They're going out into Twin Silos Park or Fossil Creek Park, getting involved with recreational sports, and in general, eating pretty healthy. We got our McDonald's, Burger King's, Taco Bell. Actually, I ate Taco Bell today for the first time because I didn't eat anything all day long, and felt a little guilty, and it was delicious, which sucks. Of course, fast food has to be super good, but we are very conscious about what we're eating, whether that be organic, vegan, whatever it might be that kind of floats your boat. There's options here in Fort Collins, which then trickles down to your kiddos and the healthcare. My perspective would be, because we are so outdoorsy and able to go outside, play, get involved with sports. It was interesting talking to Janae, my wife, when she was going through high school. They only had 4 outdoor track meets in Alaska because that was really all that the weather could allow within the parameters of the school district because of snow and things like that. So different areas of the country, whether that be weather, too hot, too cold, terrain, whatever it might be, maybe it doesn't necessarily allow for as much outdoor activity as there is available here in Fort Collins. And maybe there's other areas that has a ton more. So that's not to say that Fort Collins is the best, but that would be my perspective as to why our child health care seems to be pretty good. Now, the next one is affordability of housing and transportation. Hey, no secret, there's been a couple videos that I put out that suggest that Fort Collins housing is pretty expensive. It is. Our incomes don't necessarily match with the price of homes as they are currently. I don't necessarily see housing prices going down, and I do see that incomes could actually rise. There are a lot of cool people that are moving here to Fort Collins and northern Colorado, bringing really interesting jobs, entrepreneurs, business owners, and going to be bringing jobs and employment here to Fort Collins. And then there's a lot of behind the scenes little small startups that are starting to get legs and build some funds or rounds of raising funds. And I don't think necessarily there's any unicorn status startups here in Fort Collins or Northern Colorado. I know there's maybe some in Boulder and Louisville, but in Fort Collins, we do need to see those incomes rise, and I do see them increasing rather quickly over the next few years, just based off of people's incomes that they're generating because of their ability to remote work, and also the entrepreneurs that are coming here and bringing cool jobs. But I also see housing prices continually increasing. So I don't necessarily see that gap getting dramatically smaller, but that is an issue. So that's probably where we ranked pretty poorly, was our affordability of housing. And then the next thing is transportation. Fort Collins, the public transportation is getting better and better every year, and we do have a strong focus on that. We have amazing bike paths, over 280 miles worth of bike paths. Our bike lanes are great. Sidewalks for people to walk, awesome. But we are a pretty sprawled out community, so we do need public transportation in the form of buses. We've talked about rail lines. Probably not going to happen anywhere in the near future, but maybe. What will happen is probably more rapid bus transit systems with dedicated lanes, the max transit, and that plan is in place for 2040 because of the amount of population growth that we are expecting. So Fort Collins does have a master transportation plan that should address some of these concerns about traffic and people wanting more fast, reliable public transportation. And if that is the case, these kind of denser areas along 287 and Harmony, and specifically downtown, can expect and possibly maybe go to a one-car household or a no-car household, well, probably a one-car household, but in the near future if we are able to accomplish what our master transportation plan is. So the cost of childcare is what's next. Now, I kind of talked about this in the cost of living in Fort Collins 2021, but I can tell you that you can expect really anywhere between $35 to $75 per day per kid for an in-home daycare or a facility daycare. Now, if you're going to be getting a nanny, you can expect anywhere between a $16 per hour and $20 per hour nanny, not per kid, but around that price point. So really anywhere between $500 to $1,800 per month if you're in a in-home daycare or a facility daycare. Now, if you do have a nanny, it depends on how much you are needing them. If you are a full-time or part-time, you're gonna have either 9 hours per day for 5 days a week, or we were at 9 hours per day for 3 days a week. We are just over $2,000 a month for that person to watch our kiddos. It was a little bit more expensive than what we were accustomed to, but if you have 2 kids and they're all in a facility daycare and you're paying $1,500 and you're $3,000 a month, it can get a little pricey. I don't necessarily need my kiddos coming out, walking on their hands, speaking 10 languages when they're 4 years old. I definitely take a lot of pride in being able to hopefully educate them in our house and provide them a good foundation of education as we go. But hey, to each their own, and to each their own their financial capabilities. That being said, again, expect anywhere between $35 to $75 per day, $35 to $50 for a kid in home daycare, probably closer to $50 to $75 for a facility daycare, and then again, $20 per hour for a nanny. That is the cost of childcare. And then the final criteria that was measured is daycare opportunities, parks, and libraries. Well, I just kind of touched on the daycare opportunities. Now, it is interesting talking to people coming in from out of state, specifically these bigger metros where you are on a waiting list, and it is a dog-eat-dog type of mentality to get into preschools. And while I don't have a ton of experience because my child is only 3.5 and we just got her into a preschool, it wasn't that difficult. Now, that is not to be said that there are definitely kind of facilities like the Goddard School here in town, and it's kind of, there's Primrose and different ones that are pretty sought out and desired, and there will be competition, possibly waiting list for those facility daycares, preschool type opportunities. But There are other options and they are not completely sold out, but our population is growing. And as we all know, or maybe we don't, but employment is tough to come by these days. So it is important that you find a well-vetted school that you feel comfortable putting your kiddo in and through. Now, as far as libraries go, we've got 2 public libraries. We've got one down in Old Town and one on the southeast side in the Front Range Village. I honestly don't go too much to the public libraries, but there is a lot of cool opportunities and resources that they provide. So if that is your jam, definitely feel free to check those out. Well-ran, clean, facilities. And there's one in Old Town, again, one in the southeast side of Fort Collins on the Front Range Village. And then parks. I think we do one of the best jobs that I can see or I have talked to about our parks. We've got Edora and Roland Moore, 2 very, very established big parks in the middle of town. And then as you get to the southeast side of town, Fossil Creek Park, Twin Silos Park, phenomenal parks. And then on the west side of town, again, a huge park is Spring Canyon Park. All of these are great. And then there's little parks kind of sprinkled throughout there that are also very, very cool, clean, well-kept, well-maintained parks. And I absolutely love the ability to go and take my kids like on a random Wednesday afternoon. We went and got pizza at the Garlic Knot and then just went about a mile south to Warren Park. And actually that was the park that I grew up on. And sat there, ate pizza, had a Coke, and then let the kiddos play on a cool little zip line. But in general, the parks here in Fort Collins, I can't necessarily say second to none because I don't have the experience for other communities and cities and municipalities, but Fort Collins does a phenomenal job with their public parks. Maintenance, care, and cleanliness and operations are all top notch. So those are kind of all of the different criteria that Fort Collins was ranked on in 2018 when they came in 4th. I do not have a livability score. I could not find one for 2020 or 2021, but hopefully we haven't gone too far back, or maybe we've gone up. You never know. With the cost of housing that has gotten a little bit more expensive over the last few years, maybe we've gone down a little bit more. Not sure. But that being said, I ain't going nowhere. My family is going to be raised here in Fort Collins. I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited to see those friends from high school that are starting families and finding their way back here to Fort Collins to raise a family. So if you're considering raising a family and you are a major focus on healthcare of children, public schools, daycare, cost of daycare, affordability, transportation, options for your kids to play with kiddos under 6, Fort Collins is a great place. So definitely feel free to watch other videos, cost of living or living in Fort Collins, pros and cons. All of those videos might give you a little bit more information that might help you make a decision. So until next time, guys, take care.